Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coach Menachem this beautiful Sunday night, February 15, 2026. Tonight is share 260. Thank you all for joining. As I start every week, thank all the people for posting on the statuses, letting people know about it. As I say, it's a Sichas Chaverim, a place to speak through things. Tonight's topic is a very powerful topic. Hopefully, it'll be very helpful for the men, for the women, and for everybody. If anybody wants to join the WhatsApp statuses, please WhatsApp me at 732-314-1710. We'll also add to the community chats. And if you want to, you can go to menachembernfeld.com to the website, sign up to the email list where Menachem sends out the emails every week and all the replays. For all the people that are watching this video on YouTube, click on the subscribe button. So every week when Menachem posts the videos, you get notified right away, and also click the like button. Thank you to all the advertising sponsors, Lakewood Scoop here in Lakewood, Eli Nero from Five Town Central, and Chayla Kaufman from JCM, from the Jewish Contact Network, for always promoting us on all the digital platforms. We're going to start off first with our gematria. Fried. Tonight's share 260. We waited for Moshe Chaim to come on till now. So let's go. Let's see if we can tie the gematria into tonight's program.
Shalom Aleichem, everyone, to Zoom share number 260. Hineini, when a man stops running, feel more, hide less, the truth about men and healing. It is our hope through this Zoom share that we are able to feel bigger and be stronger people, which leads us up for tonight's gematria of 260, Godol v'Gibor, bigger and stronger.
Okay, shkoyach for that. Okay, and let's just first do with one of the sponsors. Thank you to OK Clarity for sponsoring tonight's program. OK Clarity is the largest mental health and wellness directory of the global Jewish world. It's a place for anybody to find an amazing therapist, psychiatrist, nutritionist, and yes, even Coach Menachem is there as well. OK Clarity has amazing WhatsApp statuses with many followers, millions of followers, 10,000 followers. And Menachem will send out the link to okclarity.com so you can join the statuses. I think it's very beneficial for everybody to join. A lot of good stuff over there. Again, if anybody's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. on this Zoom ID, we have different topics, different rabbanim, different therapists, different random people, some Moshe Chaims from who knows where. We have them all over here, so join, be part of it. It's amazing. And now we're going to turn over to Coach Menachem. Coach Menachem, Sunday night, it's cold. It's Chodesh Adar, we're getting there. We're getting close. Everybody wants to know what tonight's topic, what we're talking about. I'm handing it over.
Shkoyach. Welcome everyone to another Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem. And like we heard, number 260 with a lot of Siyata Deshmaya. Here we are in the present moment, and we have the schus to have Moshe Chaim with us. The topic: when a man stops running, feel more, hide less. The truth about men and healing. Basically, stopping to run. I think it's not always only men. It's the human race. The world is going so fast. So if we can, eventually slow down and see what's going on. I was thinking, growing up, we all pick up an image of what success looks like and where we want to be, what we need to do to feel accepted, to be accepted in the world, to be accepted in our social circles. And we get to work. We start pushing, we try. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we have to continue. We keep on pushing. We got to prove, we got to stay on top. We got to stay afloat. And even when in the outside it's working, it looks like it's working, you can feel successful, be successful, playing the game, you're doing the steps. For some reason, many times we feel this, something is missing, not satisfied. We don't feel content. There are struggles, relationship. And as men, many times we have a hard time to express it, understanding what's going on, understanding what our needs are. And that's where we sometimes, all we can do if we don't know what we're talking about is just continue. Just an interesting cycle that I see in my world with the men. There are strong men. So many are strong men covered up. I would say they have a mask. There are no ups and downs. They're just fine. You ask them what's going on. Everything is great. It's going. It's working. There are no inner struggles. At least that's what they say. So they're strong on the outside. Then there are those men and again, it's not only men, human beings who are on a journey. And there are ups and downs, and they just couldn't continue. They couldn't hold it all together. Now, eventually they had to figure it out, speak to people, try to figure out what's going on, and see what's going on about themselves. What are they looking for? And then there are those men that come out on the other side, strong, vulnerable, and not that it's always good. There are ups and downs, and they are more in tune. They understand it. But coming out from the other side, so when you talk about somebody being strong, you have to know what strong you're talking about. Is it the before or after? So being a strong man, can mean with a mask or without a mask, or depends where they are. So now the question is, why and what are we running from? For those who are running, and we all have something that's inside of us, what are we running from? What does it look like? If it's something that I never experienced, what exactly am I looking for? And how do I get there? So here we are. Tonight is the time to discuss it. We have Moshe Chaim, and again, it's not only men, but the concept of not being able to be in touch, not being able to understand ourselves. And tonight we can slowly slow down, be a little bit vulnerable, try to figure out what is it that I'm looking for, where am I trying to get to? We want to feel a little bit content in the present moment, but if I don't know what that looks like, how do I know how to get there? So I want to thank Moshe Chaim for being with us tonight, and let's have a discussion. Let's make it real. Thank you.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, tonight's topic, Moshe Chaim Srour, share 260. I'm going to read your bio. Let's read the first little topic. Hineini, when a man stops running, feeling more and feel more, hide less, the truth about men and healing. Whoa, it's going to be a wild topic. The bio. Moshe Chaim Srour is a hypnotherapist, life coach, breathworks facilitator, psychedelic integrator, and guide with over 18 years in the field. He's worked with thousands of people, focusing on men's work, inner child healing, IFS, and 12-step integration. He leads immersed 4-day breathwork retreats under Hineini, centered on clarity, vulnerability, trust, and surrender. He has facilitated internationally, oriented by Rabbi Yeshua Geffen. Moshe integrates Torah with grounded psychological work and is known for his candor, directness, and honest approach. Moshe Chaim, right? You're laughing. It's not interesting. It's interesting to hear your own bio, right? It's like your own little ketspit. That's your bio, and we're gonna give you the floor. Open it up. Take it away.
Wow, so thank you so much for having me. Really, really, and I remember years ago when I started watching this program, and I said, like, okay, fine, one day. So Mamish is a dream come true. So I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, when it comes to this topic, why do men hide? I could tell you why I hide and why some of the people that I've met along the way have hid, and the certain topics that keep on recurring, and certain stucknesses that keep on emerging. Men are really looking for something. Humans are really looking for something. I think the most consistent truth that I found for myself and for others is that we're on this journey to wholeness. We're really on this journey coming home. We're a journey to really feel more fully alive, more fully ourselves. And in that journey of wholeness, in that journey of coming home, in that journey of becoming our own selves, we get stuck. We get stuck. Sometimes while having our eye on the ball, we start running away from pain. And then while we're trying to go home, we start running towards pleasure, and we start getting lost along the way. So the last couple of years, what I've noticed is that people start to get caught in this spin, a little ping pong game that we have sometimes in our head, where I want it, but I don't want it. I want it, but I don't want it. I want to go here, but I don't want to go there. And at the end of the day, how do I let go? How do I start to quote unquote control my thinking? How do I stop thinking certain things about myself? How do I stop thinking certain things about other people? How do I stop doing those things that I keep on doing that I really don't want to do? And what happens is that we have this certain idea or this certain paradigm or this certain model of picture frame in our heads, if you will, of what we're supposed to be, and we don't always fit in it. And then we start to deal with the dissonance of what happens when I don't fit that little picture inside of my head of how it's supposed to be, or what happens when my partner doesn't fit into that picture the way it's supposed to be. And there's, Baruch Hashem, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that have wonderful answers and wonderful techniques and wonderful models of how to find this answer and to delve into be Megala, the inner truth. And Baruch Hashem, it's an entire industry. So, check your local WhatsApp status. So when it comes to the spin, specifically with the men that wind up finding me, specifically with the people that wind up finding me, where sometimes we don't always want to admit that we're spinning. Sometimes we really want to get the thing that we want without actually acknowledging the humanity of that process. Sometimes I really want what I want, even though there's a part of me that knows that it's not always good for me. So in my work with addicts, in my work with people that I guess have lost their way in being functional all the time, they needed a certain model in order to come back to themselves, to really come back to themselves in a little bit more of an honest way. So the first thing is we have to even start to talk about such things, it requires a sense of courage. It requires courage. It's scary. It's scary to talk about the things we hide. It's scary to talk about the things I don't want to talk about. It's nerve-wracking. It's vulnerable. And for a grown man or a grown woman or a person or a human to actually step into the discomfort of actually seeing themselves as imperfect, that takes a certain degree of courage. We want to be these perfect beings of light that are always in Hashem's presence, always. And sometimes we forget that we are these imperfect, perfect beings that are in Hashem's light always. So because we get lost in this idea of our perfect imperfection, imperfect perfection, we get scared. We get scared to acknowledge the different vulnerabilities and that we have going on. And the vulnerability it's really, if you look up Webster, it's a state of being where there's a possibility that I may be hurt. To actually be vulnerable with another person is to share something where there is a possibility that what I'm sharing can be poked. And that's why it's vulnerable. If it was something that I'm ironclad on, it wouldn't be vulnerable. It wouldn't be scary because it's something I'm ironclad on. I'm sharing that 2+2. But if I'm sharing if I'm acknowledging something that hurts, if I'm acknowledging something that is contrary to the way I would like to be seen, that's scary. So the two initial steps is, one is courage, and two, it's a courageous choice to acknowledge my own vulnerability. So to actually acknowledge the mitzias, and sometimes it's the data, sometimes it's something that's going on, sometimes it's the facts of life, sometimes it's what happened, because we all know that sometimes what happened hurts. And sometimes it wasn't, if I could have changed the history, I would have changed the history. So to actually acknowledge the thing that happened is a state of vulnerability. And we, especially men, we like to package it. We like to package the things that hurt us and put it away in a drawer, put it away in an attic, or put it away in the basement and forget it's even there. But it comes a time where sometimes I need to clean out the attic, or I need to open the boxes that I've hid so well. And that takes a certain degree of courage. So it's not always the data. It's not always what happened. Sometimes it's the way I think about myself. Sometimes it's the different thoughts that I have about myself. How many of us always think that we are okay? Sometimes it's I'm not good enough. Sometimes it's I'm not acceptable. Sometimes it's X, Y, and Z. So the opportunity of vulnerability is, how do I step into acknowledging the parts of me that I don't always give myself the opportunity to acknowledge? And sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes it's sadness. Sometimes it's grief. I remember that there was a person that found me. He wound up a year after his 2-year-old was nefter, and he did not get a chance to feel. He did not get a chance to feel the feelings that he felt. And sometimes a grown man needs to be with another grown man and say, there's a part of me that's feeling. I don't know how to acknowledge that. And the most courageous thing a person can do sometimes is acknowledge what the Metzias is, that I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling scared, or I'm feeling frustrated and angry. So yeah, vulnerability is not just what happens. Sometimes it's what I'm thinking about myself, and sometimes it's the feeling that I'm feeling when I'm thinking those thoughts about myself. And deep down, what do I really want in relationships? How many of us have wants that we carried into relationships, and we start thinking that maybe I don't deserve that, or maybe I'm not going to get that, or maybe they don't know how to give that to me. So what winds up happening is that we bury that. We bury that desire. We bury that want. We bury that ratzon for the person that never thought that he was able to learn. That sweet vulnerability that I'm not able to learn. I have no shaykhs to Torah. And all of a sudden, once I actually have the courage to actually acknowledge that there's something inside of me that really wants something, and from that place actually acknowledging it, maybe just from that place of sharing, decide to do something different. So to stop the spin, that I find myself, it takes courage. It takes courage, and it takes acknowledging the vulnerability of the moment. And once I start to acknowledge the vulnerability of the moment, then I could start stepping into acceptance. Because it's one thing to acknowledge what I'm feeling. It's another thing to accept myself when I'm feeling that feeling. So if you're like me, you've probably heard that before, where I want to accept myself, or he just really wants to be accepted. And it's something that I remember feeling in school. I remember feeling it with my peers. I remember feeling it when I was looking in the mirror, maybe even this morning, where there's a part of me that wants to be accepted, a part of me that wants to belong. And how do I learn how to accept myself with the different vulnerabilities? Can I accept myself even when I'm feeling a feeling that isn't always pleasant? That there's a me, and then there's a me that feels. So for the people that I found along the way, that it's one thing to acknowledge the mitzias of the experience. It's another darga, it's another step to how do I accept myself as the person that feels the experience. It's a little bit of a step higher, if you will. It's a little bit of a step more. And what I've noticed with men is that it's one thing to feel what you're feeling. It's another thing to accept that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Because we don't always want to accept the fact that this vulnerability is going on. It's one thing to acknowledge the vulnerability. It's another thing to accept myself with the vulnerability. But what's interesting is that I start to accept myself with the vulnerability, there starts to be a certain flex, a certain refinement, where I'm not just the one that's feeling, I'm also the one accepting myself with the feeling. And then if I'm the one that's accepting myself with the feeling, maybe, just maybe, there's an I that's there that I'm starting to notice. And maybe I'm a little bit more bigger. Maybe I'm a little bit more expansive than just the thoughts or just the feelings. And what happens is that I could start noticing that there's someone there to trust. And at a certain point, I could trust myself even when I'm accepting myself, even when I'm feeling. Whew, okay, that's a lot. So I could tell you, for me, just being here, it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. I don't know what it's like to look at a bunch of faces with a bunch of green WhatsApp phones. And it feels scary. And even when it feels scary, there's a part of me that wants to be okay. And can I accept myself even when there's a part of me that thinks that wants to be okay? And can I trust myself when I'm looking at myself wanting to be okay? And slowly but slowly, I could start to draw a little bit more of a space between myself and between my thinking, between myself and the parts of me that just want to run away and go to bed and go home. So I think that's a good opening spiel, if you will. And yeah.
Okay. It's a great opening. We have a lot of questions. Again, tonight's is a topic for men, and obviously the woman listening, we need you to chime in. I'm assuming from everybody on tonight, it's like 99% women. I'm assuming all the men already didn't tune in. But for those few courageous men that are here tonight. Okay, let's go into the polls. Here we go. Everybody answer honestly. Tonight's poll is a little interesting. I want only the woman to answer poll 3, and the men can answer poll 1 and 2. So we're asking you, women, just focus on 3, men 1 and 2. Here we go. First question. As a man, I was taught emotions are, which one talks to you? A weakness, something to control, something to ignore, a sign of strength when felt. Second question. I stay busy mostly to, why do you stay mostly busy? As a man, be productive, avoid feeling, or feeling in control. And while the men are going to think on 1 and 2 because they go slower than the woman, obviously, the woman could answer number 3. For wives that are watching, when my husband is emotionally uncomfortable, he usually, A, gets busy or distracted. Oh, take it easy. It's like everybody's voting. Number 2, shuts down. Number 3, becomes irritable or defensive. Or number 4, opens up and shares. So again, for the women that are watching, when your husband is emotionally uncomfortable, what does he do? How do you see him react? Does he open up and share? Does he become irritable and defensive? Shuts down, gets busy and distracted. Back to the men. We're going to go back slowly. As a man, I was taught that emotions are a weakness, something to control, something to ignore, a source of strength when felt. I don't think any man was taught that, but okay. We put it as one of the answers. So anybody answers that, you could just leave. Number 2, I want to stay busy mostly to be productive, avoid feeling or feeling in control. So not a lot of questions there. I'm going to give you 2 seconds. I'm going to post in the chat right now Coach Menachem's link if you want to join the chats. And I'm going to also let everybody know if anybody wants to ask a question. Please text here in the chat. And remember, live questions go first. Okay, we're going to share the results. And as we share them, Moshe Chaim, we're going to discuss them together, okay? Five, 4, 3.
So exciting.
2. I want to give them, if they want to still think, and give them another 2 seconds to answer. Okay, here we go. First question. As a man, I was taught that emotions are, 23% of men say, a weakness. The number one answer, 63% by far, men were taught that emotions are something to control. 13% to ignore, and 0% the source of strength when felt. So basically, most men here tonight feel that if they had an emotion of sadness, depression, anger, or sadness, was something that they had to control. What's your take on that?
How's that working out for you? So we relate to emotions the way it was modeled for us. So if every time my sadness was rejected or tried to control, chances are that sadness isn't safe for me. If every time I was angry, I wasn't allowed to be angry, then, or I was controlled, chances are I'm going to try and do that every time I'm experiencing myself as frustrated. So especially when it comes to men, we model ourselves around the men around us. Meaning our fathers, God bless them, they were the models of what masculinity was and how we're going to relate to emotionality. So if my father was this old school Sparty, where emotions are weakness or emotions are something to control, and don't tell me I'm angry, and then that's what winds up being perpetuated. And it's almost like there's this trophy that I get if I'm able to control my emotions, or if I could just hold it down, hold it down, hold it down. But what happens is, it's one thing to be able to control my emotions and not express them. It's another thing when I start to dissociate from them and forget they even exist. So it's one thing to act out of my anger, but it's a completely other thing to forget that that anger doesn't exist or pretend that it's not even there.
Number two, I stay busy mostly to 32% be productive, 25% avoid feeling, 43% in control. So a lot of men are talking about control now. So you have 43% control. First question is control, control, control. What do you say about that?
Men are very solution-oriented people, so we think the only way we could fix something is by controlling it. And we have that inner God complex where we want to make something happen and we want to fix something. And the second there's something that we don't like a vulnerability, or there's something that's, yeah, let's just say it's something I don't like, then it becomes something I want to throw myself against. Something about acceptance is that acceptance is not approval. I want to be accepted doesn't mean I want to be liked. You're not going to like everything that goes on in life. It's just the mitzvahs. Like, I'm not going to like everything that happens, but at the end of the day, it's happening. So how can I learn how to become a little bit friendly, little bit more friendly, and accept what is? There's my business, and then there's God's business, and He's running the world. So, we wind up wanting to throw ourselves against it in order to try and control. So it's not surprising at all. But I think the deeper concept is we're looking for something where we're trying to control it. And sometimes it's to feel better. Sometimes it's so we could get that solution, or sometimes some things could just be where they need to be. All the boxes could be in a specific row. That way I could finally rest. I'm only going to be okay when my Shabbos table looks the way it looks inside of my own head. And it's nice. It's a wonderful fantasy. It's a wonderful, wonderful fantasy, and then life will teach you.
Okay, let's go to the woman question. For the wives that are watching, when my husband is emotionally uncomfortable, he usually 18% say he gets busy or distracted, 30% shuts down, 42%, the number one answer, becomes irritable or defensive, and only 9% opens up and he shares.
Wow. Um, so the defensive makes sense to me because, again, I don't want to, when I don't know how to be friendly, and I'll just use that type of way. And I don't know how to be friendly with the parts of me that I'm not actually ready to notice and see. It's going to trigger a sense of irritability. It's going to be frustrating when I'm going to find that, and especially if I'm thinking that it's going to reflect on me a certain way, whether it's the mess in the house or whether it's my son not showing up to shul. It's going to poke. And if I don't know how to hold that poke, or if I don't know how to metabolize that poke, and because maybe that poke is triggering my own trauma, maybe that poke is triggering my own daddy issues. And if I really don't know how to do that, of course I'm going to shut down, because maybe shutting down is easy because maybe I wasn't allowed to express myself. So of course I'm going to shut down. I saw this a lot in the Heimish community, where there's certain emotions that are not allowed to exist. And of course, I shut down long enough, I'm going to learn how to distract myself, because shutting down and doing nothing is really not an option. I'm going to need to distract myself. So it's really going to be the same person. I know that's me, just ask my wife. So the shutting down makes complete sense. The getting distracted makes complete sense. The wanting to control something, absolutely. And when all else fails, I'm going to be irritable and frustrated. So don't even bother talking to me. And eventually, after a day or two, if there's a space to arrive, if there's a space to be, if there's a space for the relationship to exist, then there's a sharing that winds up coming.
Let's just get into a little conversation with me and you before we get into live questions.
Oh yeah,
Let's just clarify some things.
please.
So we are raised in a world that, you got to get up, you got to go to yeshiva, you got to do your homework. You
Yeah.
put shachris to mincha when you're 7 years old. You're pushed, not in a bad way. I'm saying in Jewish, not Jewish, in all versions of it. Um, so there is a sense, yeah, you're tired, you're cranky, you're not in a good mood. We coddle it today much more than we did many years ago, obviously, and we respect it much more, but you can't function when you have everything's about your emotions. So we raise our children to be a little bit stronger than the emotions. So they're teaching them, like, my kid wakes up in the morning, like, I'm so tired, I don't want to go to shiva. Oh, I'm scared to go on the bus. Okay, get on the bus. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have them not stay home. You're not gonna have them not function. So we are teaching our children, especially our boys, to be men, right? You have a feeling, great. Not gonna invalidate it, but life overrides the feeling. So it's very nice you're saying it now as a married man to realize you're sad, you're depressed, and touch and feel all these feelings. But the system, the world, not our system, the Jewish system, the world doesn't. It shows you can have emotions, but it pushes them also at the same time. So
So I think the word that I hear when you're talking is the word resiliency. I think we're raising resilient children, and I think
we're trying to.
we're trying to. God have, please.
I'm saying today the world is pushing so much into the feelings that they're becoming so non-functional.
So
Everything's about their feelings.
So it's not, so there's the soft woo-woo of all feeling, all feeling, all feeling, and then there's a sense of resiliency. So I think it's somewhere in the middle where I get to acknowledge what's going on. I don't have to pacify everything that's going on. That's why I'm saying acknowledge the vulnerability. I don't have to swim in it. I could wave hello and I could wave goodbye. I could wave hello and I could wave goodbye. Like my daughter is allowed to be upset. You're completely allowed to be upset. You want to spin in it, you want to wallow in it. We're not talking about that. If you're allowed to, like, here's a stress ball. You want to shake and jump up and down. That you don't want to go on the bus makes complete sense. You're allowed to be angry, and then we're going on the bus anyway because that's just what we're doing. So I think there's a difference between having permission to feel and acknowledging what you're feeling, waving hello, waving goodbye, and then you get to go and keep on doing what you're doing. So the resiliency is not just being able to withstand the feeling, but also adapt when you're feeling the feeling. So yeah, I think we're both talking about the
When your
same
kid
thing.
is not in the mood of doing something, at the end of the day, you're making him resilient. You're forcing him to do it. You are showing him you have a feeling. You could acknowledge it and say, "I know you're sad. I know you don't want to go to school, but you're
So I
still
think that's the kunst. I think that's what you and I didn't grow up with. I think what I remember is just being pushed down the assembly line.
right."
And then, but what you're saying different now is that nowadays we're doing a little bit of a recognition and we're being able to see them where they're at while we're pushing them down the assembly line. I think that makes all the difference because then they're being seen. The little boy that's not being seen in their anger, it doesn't mean they get to that gets to be fully realized and recognized. But I think that's going to be the nafkamina in it.
I'll take it to the next level. Is if we didn't grow up with it, many times, even though we know that we want to give it to our kids, but we don't know how.
Mhm.
We think we're giving the space that they should be able to acknowledge the emotion and feel it. But we don't realize the step number one is to realize what's coming up in the parent.
Mhm.
What's the parent feeling when they hear the child saying, I don't want to go to school today? If they feel like, oh my gosh, and they lose it, even though they don't show it, very hard for them to give over to that child that the acknowledgement, the validation, and then let them slowly go to school on the bus. So it's really all about us to see where am I,
Yeah.
here it feels.
So my daughter has this thing. She loves her little she loves to have her little kiddush cup by kiddush, yeah. And 8 out of 10, she's drinking it before kiddush even starts. And I see myself. I see my father in my head. That the second she starts drinking, I'm like, and I stop myself because why am I going to? Why am I going to do that? She wants to drink it, and if I get the 2 out of 10 where she's actually sitting through it, then wonderful. So it's like it's so where again to mirror it. Where am I and where's the kid?
Okay, let's go to some questions over here. I just want to, before we even go to questions, one more question I wanted to
Please.
before we go into it. As an adult man watching this now, right? Anybody who's 19, 20 plus, explain them what benefit do they have by feeling and getting in touch with these emotions, because at the end of the day, they only slow you down. If I have feelings and I'm feeling sad, I can push them away. I can be successful. What do I benefit as a person, as a 20-year-old plus, whether you're 20, 30, 40, whatever, to really delve into feelings? And the reason why I think some men don't want to is because it starts opening this vulnerability, which is perceived as weakness, and it's perceived that's only going to bring out You know what I mean? Right. Somebody just texted me. People don't care about my emotions. It just makes it worse. Like, why do
So,
that? You know what I mean?
so not being able to acknowledge a vulnerability is not necessarily strength. Not being able to acknowledge what happened to you is not strength. So where I deal with it is I like to deal in parts, where there's a part of me that feels this, and there's a part of me that really wants to be successful. So this is not about Street Fighter, where the part of me that wants to be successful is going to beat the part of me that wants to feel what he's feeling, and then only when the part of me that my mind that wants to keep on going is going to beat the part of me that doesn't want to that wants to sit and feel, then I'm going to be successful. So I think that's where there's a mistake for the 20-year-old that thinks that, oh, as long as I don't as I keep going, then it's okay. There's a part of you that's alive, there's a part of you that's breathing. All right, there's a part of you that exists, and the part of you, chances are, it's going to come out. And if it's not going to come out at 21, chances are it's going to come out by the time 42 comes along. And if it doesn't, your kids are going to see it. So it's going to come out in one way or another. It's going to come out. So the opportunity is, again, it's an opportunity of just taking a time, taking a space to acknowledge what's going on. That doesn't mean you're swimming in it. That doesn't mean it takes you up your entire day. And Rabbi Nachman writes, you gotta specify a time to deal with the brokenness. You have to specify a time to deal with something that hurts. That doesn't mean you're going to spend your entire day on it.
Right, right.
All right. That means if there's a part that's hurting, there's a part that's hurting. And if there's a part that here, there's a part that's in pain. The fact that you think that pain is a weakness, that's not a din in pain. That's a din in how you're relating to pain.
Right.
So it's like, so to like, there's a lumdus to it because you got to be a lamdan. Because the second I take apart and say it doesn't matter, then that's just me taking apart and throwing it away. And so there's no chiddush in being able to dissociate myself from a part of myself. No, but if I keep on going, okay, good, like great, and then you just wind up paying interest.
The one thing I could just my advice, and tell me how off I am by saying that, is like one way you can look at it is you could look at the older people, whether it's your father or your grandfather or parents or older people in the shul, and you're like, "Whoa, these guys are snappy and they're so." That's really you in 20 years and 30 years from now when you don't work on your emotional feelings. You become irritable and you have your mishigasim. The feelings opens up a lot of the things inside of you, and it makes you a better, more feeling person. Actually, it's like eating a steak, more enjoyable and slow. You get to enjoy life when you have feelings and you get to understand the feelings versus avoiding them, and you're really dodging yourself. I hope that's understandable.
So that stubborn shell that you see in older people is grown, is harnessed, it matures. And like I remember when I was in my 20s, I was seeing
The
people that
rock.
were that were in their 40s, like, okay, fine, there's a stubbornness that somebody hits in their 40s. Again, not judging anybody who's there, but like it winds up hardening and maturing and maturing. That comes from somewhere, that grows out of somewhere. So that which you're judging the older generation, that
That's
mamash is
you.
like, it's you, but like you're just not hardened yet, and it will grow. That hardened shell most definitely grows. So it's up to you
We
to.
look at, like, as a young person, we look, how could a guy who's 70, who's 60, so mature, his grandkids, but he doesn't get his covet, or he doesn't get his shishi, or whatever it is, and he goes psycho, and he's a normal guy.
And that's the hill he's willing to die on.
Well,
And
because
I have
that's
a whole
something
list
that
of
he
them.
never was in touch with, that it just manifested, and it just, okay, let's go. Everybody wants to get into it. Here we go. Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
Hey.
I have a question. Basically, coming out, I'm in my midlife, and I'm coming out of pretty significant burnout event, which with some, and I lost a lot of my sense of myself. So I was told that I have to learn to love myself and embrace myself. And as much as I'm trying to read books and listen to ideas of doing this, it just seems so difficult to grasp. How do I just love myself? I mean, I'm not sure where the wounds of not loving myself come from, and there are so many voices and teachings that I've been grown up with that seem to go against any opening for this to just love yourself. So I'm looking for
First
advice.
of all, I just want to say one thing. I'm impressed that a man started off tonight's share. There will be only women. So the fact that you're here is already a plus. Moshe,
And this is a real solid question that
it's a
many
solid
people.
question. Yeah, solid question.
Really an amazing question. I think the way I learned how to answer this question, because I used to think, I was asked this like years ago. It's like, so do you finally love yourself after all the work, after all the therapy, and after all the workshops? Do you really love yourself? And it's an honest question. I think a way that I've learned how to tackle it or encounter it or meet people in it is, how do I treat myself with more love? How to love is not this on and off switch. Loving myself is most definitely not an on and off switch. We're always in relationship to ourselves. We're always in relationship to how I'm treating myself. So the avoda, what I've noticed is, how do I treat myself with more love? How do I treat myself with more grace? How do I treat myself um, with more care? And the hechret, it's going to mean that there's parts of me that I'm not actually caring about. I'm not treating with grace, and I'm not treating with love. So it takes a certain cheshbon of, well, where can I do? What would that look like? What would that look like to treat myself with more love? To say I love myself or I don't love myself as if it's a black and white thing, when it's very, very, very much gray, and it's very much an evolving process. It's almost cheapening it. So it's it really is a continuum of, how do I treat myself with more love, and how do I treat the parts of myself that need it with a little bit more grace, whether it's the parts of me that feel, whether the parts of me that are burning out. Maybe there are parts of me that need more rest. Maybe there are parts of me that need to be spoken with. Maybe there are parts of me that need to be expressed. Maybe there's a part of me that I'm not listening to. If I'm sitting there and I'm burning myself out, and I keep on going, I keep on going, I keep on going, because there's a certain part of me that's identified with keep on going, there's other parts of me that I'm not listening to. There's a part of me that wants to be heard. There's a part of me that wants to, yeah, that really just wants to be heard. So I think once I start to treat the parts of myself that I wasn't treating with a little bit more dignity, then a shift could happen. And chances are the people around you are going to have a perspective of, well, what parts of me can I need more love? How can I be more loving to myself? Not, do I love myself? Do I love myself? It's almost like a report card. Do I or do I not? And yeah, it's not a report card that I ever did spectacularly well in either. So
For beginners, where would you send them? I'm saying some modalities, some concepts, really for somebody who has never done any work.
but what does love mean? So it's really, what does love mean? Can I sit down, like, love means what? And love means what from who? So there's a whole workshop that I do. It's not the workshop coming up, but where we take apart love as a sugya. What does it mean to be a lover? Hashem is a meitiv. Hashem is a giver. Hashem is a lover, and we're constantly in this ebb and flow of love from Hashem. Well, what does it mean to be a lover the way Hashem wants us to be a lover, and to give the parts of me that need that giving? So there's the love that I got from a mother, which was this very much that caring, holding love. It's that maternal love where she's able to hold all of me. When we think about that, I know I want to be loved that way, where I want to be held, I want to be cared for. And there's also the fatherly love of, there's somebody taking responsibility for me. There's somebody holding me accountable and providing for me. So, and there's also the brotherly love, where there's that sense of respect, and there's a camaraderie. And there's also the love of lovers. So I know it's like, I got very advanced very quick, but how can what does love actually mean? Just a definition in terms, because people say feeling. What does feeling mean? What does it mean to actually feel? There's a beautiful process when we talk about vulnerability, where it's really just it's called the four quarters. What is going on? The first quarter is, what's the data? What is the circumstance? I'm experiencing burnout. Okay, maybe that's the data. I'm experiencing burnout. Well, when I'm experiencing burnout, what is my thinking about the circumstance? What am I thinking about myself? Yeah, really, 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 really basic. What is the data? What is the thinking? The third quarter is, when I'm thinking those thoughts about that data, how do I feel? All right, we don't got to get woo-woo. We don't got to get into deep inner child or close my eyes for half an hour and breathe. But when that data is going on, and I'm thinking that thought, how do I feel? And when I'm feeling that feeling, when I'm thinking that thought around that data, what do I really want? So if I'm sitting on this podcast and I'm seeing people, okay, this guy left, this guy left, this guy left, and I'm thinking about myself, well, do I really matter? And how do I feel? Well, maybe I feel scared, maybe I feel ashamed, maybe I feel nervous. And what do I really want? Maybe I want to be seen. Maybe I want to be seen that I'm okay. And what if that's normal? So to get really, really basic, to answer the question, A, what is the definition of term? What does love actually mean? How do I become, how do I treat myself more with love? And to get even more basic, where do I even start? How about starting with just a simple, what's going on? What am I thinking about what's going on? What am I feeling when I'm thinking about what's going on? And what do I want? And start from there. Really start from really, really basic.
First, Moshe Chaim, I want to say you're doing a great job.
Oh, so it worked.
So keep it up. And then I want to,
Menachem, one second. Let's just go to this question for a second.
wait, I want to say thank you to Joseph for asking the question and saying he also did a good job. And we're here for you.
Okay, next live question, you're on.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question. I guess I don't always tune in, but I actually very much liked this the topic, and I know people speak about it, but from my own experience, someone once told me, I found to be very true, don't bother telling people your problems because half the people don't care and the other half are actually happy that you have them. So now, I don't mean to be cynical in any way, but sometimes a person's wife will say, can you open up? Can you share? But then you see afterwards the things that you say, sometimes they use it against you. We all have that. And, or they say, oh, remember you said that, or you yourself said that, or, so of course, we want to unburden ourselves. The question is to who? So I myself, I try to, let's say, do self-affirmations, look at myself in the mirror and say, good things and to be, loving to myself, and I push myself and everything. And I think it pretty much works for me. But it is true that eventually the person starts not feeling as much because when you feel, there's a lot of hurt. So what, a little bit Usher, who's always great, mentioned, like, what's the benefit? I just see personally in my own life, it's just, no one will ever care for you as much as you care for yourself. And for my experience, people don't really care to actually to listen. And, it's not fair, I would say, at sometimes to just, vent or unburden and say your feelings. So of course, something happens. Yeah, I feel disrespected. I feel underappreciated. I feel all sorts of feelings, and we're aware of that. And we try to, like in the poll, we try to control it. We try to, use our minds over our feelings, our emotions, which is really, in a way, our Avodas Hashem is to be, to be just dry intellect, not so much work with emotions, which is arbitrary. It's fleeting, like this covered thing that, people flip out. What is it really? It's really nothing. The person really would stop and think you are what you are, whether they respect you or not. And if they respect you and you're nobody, so you're nobody. So if a person really wants to be fully intellectual and not so much emotional, usually these are the people who are more settled, who are more grounded, who are more in control. This is what it would seem. So I'm going to start telling other people my feelings. People don't care, even the people who are very close to you. And even those people will use it against you many times. So it's just like, listen, or let's say if you'll just say how you feel about, you're upset about something, and then even you use iMessages and all the rules of how you're supposed to say something in a pointed way and not in a critical way. And still people will become defensive, and still people will say, oh, and you expect things to be this way when you yourself don't do that way. So I don't know, is there a lack of communication, and you just feel like, okay, it's just better off not to discuss. It's better off to just, be the bigger person, the strong, I'll say in quotations, the stronger person, swallow a little bit. And if a it's too much, so he'll listen to some music and he'll have some chamomile tea and he'll take a nice hot shower. He'll, soak a little bit in some, salt, and he'll have a good night's sleep. And then tomorrow he forgets about it. Is that anything wrong with that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I think, thank you. Thank you for that. And that makes a lot of sense to me. When it comes to vulnerability, for me, I'm really focusing from the inside out. So before I even talking with somebody else or sharing my vulnerability with another person, it begins with acknowledging the vulnerability between me and myself. What am I feeling between me and myself? What is going on between me and myself? That doesn't mean that everybody gets to hear it. That doesn't mean that I need to go and share it with everybody. That doesn't mean that I gotta go put it on a billboard, that deep, dark thing that I really want, and I don't want it to hurt anymore. So now I have to tell everybody about it. We're not virtue signaling or espousing a hurt that way. I supersaturate myself with that, with being seen, then it doesn't hurt anymore. What we're talking about is really, how do I acknowledge a vulnerability between myself, a practice, an exercise, a skill of being able to acknowledge vulnerability between me and myself. Now, who I share that with, is there a space to share that with? Have I cultivated as a man a space of sharing with my spouse? That's a completely different question. No, with in any relationship, there's me, there's her, and then there's us. So it's one thing to work on myself, and it's also, another thing for my wife to work on herself. And then there's working on the relationship. I don't know how to work on my relationships without also working on acknowledging vulnerability within the relationship. So I guess to summarize, it's really from the inside out. We're talking about a skill that begins between the person and themselves. The first step in 12 steps, if you will, where there's a certain recognition between myself and of what's hurting or what's pinching, or is there something that's pinching, or is there something that happened, or is there?
But let's say we know that. Let's say something happened, and when we think about it, it kind of makes us feel bad. Feel bad at that time, thinking that we're not appreciated, and we speak about it, and it doesn't really change.
Got it. I'm asking you, how do you feel?
How do you feel? All sorts of emotions. Emotions come and
like
go.
What?
This moment?
Yeah.
Right now, how do I feel? I feel
about that thing.
About the thing that's, well, it's every day. It's something else. We're constantly, listen. We're not living by ourselves, so it's constantly. You have neighbors.
So pick one thing. That thing that you don't want to share about, or that thing that didn't go well, and how do you feel about that thing?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. Which thing are you? There's constantly things are happening, right?
So pick one.
The last thing that happened, well, sometimes a person is just not nice to you. So you feel like, why you're not nice? And then you feel bad. I'm a nice guy, so why?
No, now you're thinking again. I'm asking you about the feeling.
And then you stop and you say, well,
yeah, that's the thinking. Had a bad day. The thinking. That's tzaddik. That's the thinking. I'm asking you, how do you feel?
How do you feel? You feel I don't know, when a person, let's say, makes fun of you, or you feel low. I don't know how to explain it. You feel like you're not good enough.
So when I think that I'm not good enough, when I think that I am not good enough, and let's, again, I'm not trying to sound like Tony Robbins and use I statements, but when I think that I'm not good enough, I feel what?
Well, honestly, when I do feel like that, it hits you. But then afterwards, you stop and you say, like.
Now you're telling me what you do with it. I'm asking you how you feel.
It's like a person who punches you in the face. We had this discussion with the other guy who said it's like a ball. You throw the ball. Remember the fireball? You just throw it away. I forgot that guy's name. It was over here.
Fantastic.
Yeah. What do you? There's a feeling, right? There's a feeling.
Yeah. So that feeling.
Yeah.
So it could be really easy to acknowledge the data. It could be really simple to acknowledge the thinking about the data.
Yeah.
The kunst of acknowledging the vulnerability is to acknowledge a part that's hard to acknowledge, or that's maybe a little bit more difficult to acknowledge, or a little bit more difficult to sit down and be with. And sometimes for men, it's going to be the feeling. And sometimes it's the desire that I'm feeling, that I want when I'm feeling the feeling. So that's why I'm asking you. I get that you know what happened. I get that you're thinking about what happened, and you're very clear on that.
If a person is made fun of, so he feels low. If a person feels like he did something and he didn't get appreciation, he feels not appreciated. So I'm not sure this is like anything. There's a feeling, and we feel that feeling, and then we don't want to stay in the feeling. So if a person does things to distract him, or to or just to think you very, very intellectually, like they say, no one can make you feel a certain way. You have to allow them to feel that way. If you don't allow people to make you feel a certain way, you won't feel that way. It's us that we allow them to give us that feeling. But if we say no, I'm very good. And listen, you learn Mussar and you'll tell yourself what you need to do. But what they think that I need to do is not necessarily true, or how they look at me doesn't really make a difference in my life anyway. So why am I even feeling that way? It's not true. That feeling isn't true.
But you're feeling it.
Yeah,
Now you're judging the feeling with whether it's true or not.
Yeah, because it's arbitrary. It's not real. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. For example, like it's the case of a cupboard. I didn't get Aliyat Shishi. I was supposed to get a certain kibbutz, and I didn't get it. Is it real? Should I have really gotten that kibbutz? Yeah. Am I really on that level to get that kibbutz that I should have gotten? And maybe the other person needs it more than me. I don't know. So when you start thinking about feelings, you're starting to say that no, feelings are not necessarily something that should take me out of my equilibrium and out of the place that I need to be in control of. Feelings make a person lose control to an extent. It makes a person angry. It makes a person jealous.
Instead of talking about the person, can you talk about me?
Renovations next door, and you're saying to yourself, "Wow, I wish I could do these renovations." So that's a feeling, right? Now you're saying, don't stay in this feeling. Fine. So what should we be doing? We should obviously acknowledge that I'm jealous, and I should say, you know what? Hashem has something for everybody, and I'm happy for them, and Hashem should give them more. And if I needed it, I would have had it. Why should I stay in that feeling of I feel bad that somebody, or why should I even we acknowledge it, because if we have an answer to it, so we obviously acknowledge that there's a feeling, but we have to take the feeling, which is whatever amount of data it is, and like you're saying, don it, to explain it, dissect it, and we shouldn't stay in that feeling, and the feeling sometimes is just wrong. It's a wrong feeling. Jealousy, anger, these are wrong feelings.
So I hear you. I hear you. For me, the experience of judging feelings really has not led me anywhere constructive. For me, and for frankly many of the men I wound up working with, what I notice is that when I allow myself to feel the feeling, and just give myself permission to feel the feeling, and even if it's wave hello and wave goodbye, and then any feeling fully felt will resolve. Any feeling fully felt will resolve. To start nitpicking on what's a right feeling, what's a wrong feeling, is just me judging the feeling, which is just me identifying with the way I'm thinking about my feeling, and it's not about me feeling. So the fact that I'm able to chap what I'm feeling doesn't mean that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. You know, I run breathwork groups profusely. So one of the things that I say in these groups is, just because I'm able to chap what I'm feeling does not mean I'm feeling the feeling. The fact that I'm able to understand that I'm frustrated does not mean that I'm feeling through my frustration, or that I'm actually acknowledging my frustration. It just means that I notice that there's a part of me that's frustrating. Now, can I intellectualize it? Can I rationalize it? Can I use my mind in order to, put it into a nice box? Okay, this thing makes sense. This thing doesn't make sense. Weiter. Absolutely. But what I'm talking about is well, what if I don't do that? What if I don't use rationalization as just a means of not feeling? Because you do that with a 5-year-old, would do that with an 8-year-old, and what's a right feeling, what's a wrong feeling? By the time he's 15, he doesn't really care what you think is right or wrong, and he's going to have his own mode of what's right and what's wrong. So I think if it works for you, amazing. But I think when it comes to modeling that for somebody else, I prefer ways of kinder acknowledgement.
And Moshe Chaim, I just want to slow it down for a minute, because I think what he was saying, a lot of men feel the same way.
No, I got it.
And maybe if we can slow it down and try to figure out where the change needs to be. So, we've heard a lot of beliefs that if you stay in it, it's too hard and it's not going to work. What's the benefit? Nobody's going to accept it, and just go on. So if we believe that, then that's what you're going to do. And we've also heard that there's a lot of, figuring out of how to, but not allowing to stop and just say, what do I feel? And stay there for a few seconds. And just, now, Moshe Chaim, for those who are scared, or say, what's the benefit? Can you show us why, for example, this person or anybody out there that has a situation that they don't like, and it makes them feel a certain way. Give us the steps of what it looks like for somebody who.
How do you feel about it? So I think the real question is, how do you feel about feelings?
So most people feel that it's if I stay, it's not going to work. He said it's not real anyway.
So when I think that feelings is not going to work, how do I feel?
I try to run away from it.
So when I try to run away from the feelings that I don't want to feel, how do I feel?
So I just say that well, I'm not supposed to anyways. I'm just to continue and just go on. Don't think about it.
So when I think that I just got to keep on going on and not feel the feelings that I feel, how do I wind up feeling?
I continue running because I'm not going to stop to feel.
And you still explain to me what you wind up doing. So I'm just asking you to fill in the feeling: happy, sad, scared, or angry. Multiple choice, as I say. How are you
So you're
feeling?
slowing us down and you're saying, tell me one word. And it has to be a
Yeah.
feeling. But people say, well, why go there? It's not real. It's just because I thought I have to have shishi. Why should I think about
So
it?
when you think that thought, how do you feel? All we're doing is making a chilik. Rabbi said making a chilik between how you're thinking about something and how you're feeling about something, just for the sake of the distinction, just for the
And
sake of language, just for the sake of language. I'm not asking you what's right. I'm not asking what's wrong. I'm asking you just, if we're going to go to really slow down to a snail's pace, let's work with language. What are you thinking and what are you feeling? And let's assume for a second that they're not the same thing, that they're two different functionalities. There's one's my mind, one's my thinking, one's my rational mind, and the other one's a little bit more abstract, a little bit more emotional, if you will. And that's what we'll call feeling. Now, because feeling is so broad, if we boil it down to fundamental words and like paste these words to these quote unquote energies or colors: happy, sad, scared, angry, alone, ashamed. Really, really, really simple where an 8-year-old will kind of be able to put it together. So when you're thinking those thoughts, around what's going on, how do you feel? And that's going, we're just making a distinction in language. What is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Let's just play a game. Let's just do an exercise. We're not even trying to get anywhere. Now, the second we're trying to come in with an agenda, that's the trying to control something. That's the masculine solution-oriented mindset. What's really going to help in relationship with vulnerability is going to be a process-oriented mindset, where it's like, let's just go with the flow and see what happens. Where instead of trying to jump the gun and try and, well, how is this going to add up at the end? And what is this really going to do for me?
amazing. Okay, so here is a question that somebody sent in.
That makes sense? Is
Well,
that slow?
yeah. I would only ask you the next step. Like, okay, I see it's a different language, I have to slow down. Now, what's the benefit? Because if it's so, what, okay, again, we're used to the mind saying it's true or not, but forget about that. This is how I feel. I feel not enough. I feel sad. If I say it and stay there, what's the benefit?
You're asking?
Yeah.
So on one hand, it's just the awareness, Shibboleth, is definitely a benefit. To be able to be in relationship with the part of myself that's not being acknowledged, that's a benefit. To actually know what's going on is a benefit. Because once I start to make something an object of my awareness, once I start realizing that there is something that's there, I, behechach, am not it. And what I mean by that is sometimes I'm subsumed by my feelings. Sometimes I over-identify myself with how I think about myself. And a thought is just a thought, and a feeling is just a feeling. We're not judging it, good or bad, but a feeling is a feeling, and a thought is a thought. And then there's an I that's feeling the feeling. There's an I that's thinking the thought. So the more I practice being able to, with my language, acknowledge what's going on with my thinking, with my feeling, the more I get to practice not being it. and creating more space between who I am and who I really am, what the etzem is, and thoughts that I wind up having, and feelings that I wind up feeling when I'm thinking those thoughts. And what do I really want from that place? So the more practice I do in doing that, the more I realize that, wait a second, when he's saying that, well, nobody can make me angry, that's true. Nobody can make me angry because those are my feelings. Nobody's going to make you feel your feelings. Those are your feelings that are generated by your judgments, that are generated by your thinking around the data. So yeah, they may quote unquote trigger you, and they may bring something up, and you may think certain thoughts when something happens, but doesn't make it you, and that doesn't necessarily make it their fault. So that's what I think a benefit is when I get to slow down and start to realize that who I am is not my thinking. Who I am is not what I'm feeling. And yeah, I have those things. But why is this beneficial? Because when I over-identify with my thinking, then I start acting out from that place. Then I start being reactive. Then I start losing it because he made me angry or she's driving me crazy. So that's that's
So you're saying the
that's a
goal,
little double click on it.
saying the goal of it is that you should be able to zoom out and see it from the outside.
Yeah,
So it's not so much you.
correct.
Most people would say, I don't want to stop and feel it because it makes it worse and I don't like the way it feels. But the interesting part is if once you learn, this is a skill, and I know I had to learn it. Once you learn to feel, not in your head, it's a body sensation, it's a feeling, something that you feel, then you can slowly relate to that part. And then you can slowly zoom out, look at it, have compassion, and not be so scared of it. It's not going to take you over. Versus if you don't stop and learn how to feel, and you think, I don't feel, it's fine. You don't realize that that feeling is really running everything you're doing because you're escaping from the feeling. So
Yeah.
it takes time. I think it takes time, but it's a important hit. So let's go to the next question. I know I stay late at work because being home feels emotionally hard for me. Can you help me understand what I am escaping from and how to deal with it in a healthy way?
It's. I think the answer is right there in the question.
Well, at least he's aware.
Correct. Correct. At least he's aware. I think one question I would have is, well, what are you running from? What is at home that I'm not feeling? What is at home that I'm not acknowledging? What is the vulnerability that's going on at home that I'm not experiencing? Men like to be seen. Men want to be wanted. Men want to be acknowledged. And fathers and husbands need to go home and generate that. They need to be the caring father that's present and sees and accepts and provides and all that. So I guess my question is in the roles that you are meant to fill in the home, what's going on there? What's going on what space am I not filling where being at work is a lot more comforting than being there? And again, it could be 101 different things.
So that's the first question you would ask him. What's going on at home? Or what's the need that you're looking for you're not getting?
No, what what are you not getting and what role do you not want to fill? Because being a man is a machayev. And there's being a lover is a machayev. Being a father is a machayev. Meaning, it's how do you explain machayev? It's an huh?
Responsibility?
Yeah, but it's an obligatory experience where you have to go and do that. You have to, but like the opportunity is for you to go and be the man, if you will, or do the things, if you will. And sometimes it's a stretch, and sometimes it's a flex. And men don't always. Men want it a certain way. Men want it served a certain way. Men want it to be mirrored back to them a certain way. And when that doesn't always happen, it's difficult to come home. It's difficult to not to experience that experience. So being at work is a little bit more comforting, or maybe it's a little bit more safe. Or maybe it's because I really, really want to provide and I'm trying to, crunch the last numbers at work. So I think it's also arriving to the question without a sense of judgment. It's like, can I actually accept the vulnerability? If a man is sharing with me, the vulnerability is I'm home. I'm at work more than I am at home. And maybe there's some feelings around that. Can I, as a listener, be accepting towards that? Can I accept him with his vulnerability? Can I see him with that feeling? Can I see him with that experience? Or can he see himself with that experience without needing to try and change it? But just to be with it and to be with a sense, a certain degree of openness of, well, what's really going on?
Beautiful. So you're bringing out that even before we go to any answers and solutions, is just to be aware and be there with the person.
Yeah, it's from a place of acceptance. It's just like I could accept that he's going through something without even proving it, without poking at it, without like thinking that he should be doing something different. And Lamaisa, I'm doing the same thing when I'm feeling my own feelings. Where can I actually feel my own feelings from a place of acceptance, where I can accept the fact that I'm feeling something, even though I don't always like it?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sent in this question. How do I know if feeling is useful in a moment like this, or I should just keep pushing through? A guy gets a feeling, right? Maybe now it's just not the right time to feel that feeling. Right now you got to do.
Correct.
When it's this feeling I need to act on or something I need to sit with and
You
let
don't.
somebody.
You don't. And sometimes
I'm middle of working during the day, right? And I'm feeling sad. And I'm feeling like I don't want to work. So do I sit with that feeling and say, you know something? I'm feeling sad today. I'm not going to work. I'm just going to go lay in my car and relax. Say, oh, I feel sad, but right now,
You could do that.
I'm not saying that the job is going to last.
Yeah, so sometimes, I think there's an aspect to acknowledging the vulnerability where I could wave hello and wave goodbye, where it's one thing to just blow past it. Again, like I'm on the highway and I'm just going to blow past it, and that's fine. That's fine. Nobody's going to sit down. Oh, you didn't acknowledge that one. No, you didn't acknowledge that one. Chances are between you waking up and you making it to Shachris, you've already had like 4 or 5, 50 different feelings that you're not acknowledging. The avoida is to be able to acknowledge feelings. The avoida is not to acknowledge every feeling. So sometimes I get to, I have an opportunity to acknowledge emotions throughout my day, a way of coming back to myself, a way of emotional literacy, a way of learning how to feel my feelings is by acknowledging my emotions. So for 5 times a day, I acknowledge 3 emotions, 5 times a day, that's 15 emotions that I've acknowledged today. Have I felt more? Likely. So it's not about acknowledging every emotion, but it's acknowledging some of the emotions. Now, if I'm getting caught up, sometimes I need to be able to pause with it. Sometimes I need to be able to write it down. Sometimes there's all these different wonderful exercises of acknowledging and moving through. There's different anxiety exercises. I personally like to write it down sometimes. Leave yourself a voice note for a minute on WhatsApp. Do what you got to do in order to park it, and then you wind up being able to keep on going. But the avoida again is not to acknowledge every emotion; it's to learn how to acknowledge emotions. At least the avoida I'm working with.
And then do I come back to it a different time of the day, or I don't have to think of it?
I mean, if it's recurring, it's going to come back. So then it's like it's going to come a point where it's like, do I get to look at it or do I not? If I'm waking up with the same anxiety every morning and I have to like keep on pushing it away, chances are having a conversation about it may be really helpful. I've noticed inside of myself, the second I've spoken about the things I've like refused to speak to, then I gave it the space that it needs. A lot of feelings just are looking for some space. They're looking for some love. So if you give it that pat on the head, if you give it that little hug, if you give it that permission to exist, which is really the acknowledgement, and then it winds up being able to pass, or I can metabolize it a lot more. You could think of feelings of these little parts of me that are saying, see me, accept me, acknowledge me, recognize me. There's a little boy inside of me that was scared. There's a little boy inside of me that wanted to be seen, and chances are he's going to pick his head up in all different ways and all different sizes throughout my day. So it's being able to learn how to recognize it just a little bit more. Does that mean I'm I'm does that mean I'm going to have to listen to him every time? Look, when my kid is learning how to ride a bike, and they're going to sit there, and this is to Usher's point from before, they're going to probably fall, and they're probably going to cry. And the most parental thing to do is get up and get back on. Like, I'm not interested in the crying right now. Like, we'll talk about it afterwards, but like right now, the most appropriate thing maybe is get back up on the bike and keep on going. We don't have to listen to every feeling, but we have to know how to listen. Makes sense, Usher?
Brilliant. Let's go to this next
Vibes.
live question. Here we go. My best friend. Let's go.
Okay. Hi, Moshe Chaim. So I have a question like this. They say tachlis, tachlis. I know a lot of times, right? You will be with your feeling. You'll acknowledge you'll be able to feel your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, everything we spoke about, and hopefully, besides for the emotional integration, the change that you'll have within you will be such a gewaldige thing. And sometimes it may affect your relationship with others. Others will notice to perceive you differently, and you'll have better relationships, etc., etc. But tachlis, sometimes we have certain feelings because we're stuck in a situation, and the situation, it looks like it may be there for life. Whatever the case is, chas v'shalom, right? Hashem could always change anything. So tachlis, even if we learn to change the feeling, and with our feeling, we do all our avodah, we learn not to feel like a victim, etc., and we elevate ourselves. But the situation may still be there. So I know there's some books, Goisha books, even the Torah says some things about manifestation, and the way you feel may change your life, may change your mazel. But at the end of the day, tachlis, sometimes a person's gzera is to live a certain way. So if they do all their work and they're able to be with their feeling, but the situation will have to be there at least for some time, a long amount of time. So, like, what do we gain? So what? Like, is the situation is not going to fight to bring that old feeling back? Is it not going to return? Is it going to be a battle for life? Is that their avodah in this world, to always be constant a tug of war with that feeling? Like, tachlis, as they say.
So I love this question, because people think that it begins and ends with feelings. Once I've acknowledged my emotions, then I'm done. And for me, it only begins there. It's only a starting point. So once I courageously know how to acknowledge the different vulnerabilities of the feelings that I'm feeling, and yeah, some feelings are probably a pattern. Some feelings are probably familiar. Some feelings I'm not going to be able to change. Certain things I'm just not going to be able to change. They're wonderfully God-given. The next step is going to be, how do I learn how to accept myself with those feelings, accept myself with the feelings? And that in itself is going to be a practice, because my feelings are just my feelings and my feelings are not me. So how can I accept myself when I'm feeling those feelings? At a certain point, after I've done a lot of that work, which is most definitely a lift, I'm going to have to learn how to come back to trusting myself even when I'm feeling those feelings. Because there's an I that feelings lead back to. There's one that's experiencing the experience, and every experience that you're going to experience, every feeling that you're going to have, is going to be a pathway back to yourself. So if I actually use it as an exercise of going back to myself and learning how to trust myself even when I'm feeling the feelings that I'm feeling, can I come back? Can I allow myself that grace and that openness to come back and learn that as a skill? And yeah, I'm going to have different thoughts about myself along the way. I'm going to have negative thought patterns. And I could also learn that I can stop the negative thought pattern. I can move to a better state, and I can acknowledge my emotions. And I can learn how to be there for myself even when I'm feeling those feelings. And I get that the feelings are most definitely difficult, because I know I have my own. And at a certain point, so we got vulnerability, acceptance, and trust. At a certain point, the fourth step is going to be, how do I learn how to let go? Let go of maybe the expectation of certain things will not change. Certain things I will wind up having. By hook or by crook, there are certain feelings that I'm never going to wind up being able to change. And I can't, because I tried. And maybe Hashem did not give me these feelings in order to change them, but learn how to feel them and how to be with them, and without needing to pigeonhole myself into a certain way of being. So a lot of the feelings that I don't want to allow myself to feel is because I taught myself, or I learned somewhere along the way, that certain feelings weren't safe to feel. But if I learn how to accept myself when I'm feeling certain thoughts, and I learn how to trust myself even when I'm accepting the fact that I'm feeling certain feelings, I can learn how to let go of certain expectations. And after I learn how to let go of certain expectations, or let go of certain doubts, or let go of certain loyalties that I have inside of myself, that I need to be a certain way and I can't be a certain way because I'm feeling certain feelings about myself, then I could eventually learn how to occupy a place of surrender, which is really the kunst of where vulnerability is really going to lead me. It's not Vulnerability is not just about feeling the feelings. It's wonderful to feel the feelings, but it's going to lead me somewhere more. The more that that's going to be revealed in this process, after I've accepted the fact that I'm feeling the feelings that I'm feeling, and after I've learned how to trust myself, as I've accepted what I'm learning how to accept and letting go whatever I need to let go of, is I learn how to occupy a place of surrender where it's like there's something bigger, there's something more, there's most definitely a mystery that that is a lot bigger than I am, and these feelings that I'm feeling. So how do I learn how to, double down on that instead of waiting for something to change? Chances are the Yeshua is going to come from the unknown. If it would have came from the known, it would have been here already. So, so a lot of this process, if you will, this Hineini process of here I am, or here I am for more, is I'm here for something. I'm here to become a little bit more friendly with the unknown. And yes, are there things that I feel? Absolutely. But what if those feelings are just, at the end of the day, it's feelings? It's not about right. It's not about wrong. It's about whether how much I'm going to let that dictate who I am. Is it going to dictate who I am, or be a pathway towards revealing who I am? So I know that was a little bit of a.
No, I understood a lot. I read it a lot of these stuff, but I know surrender is the maybe the highest ultimate form. So you're saying this is just the beginning that helps us. If someone tries to surrender without feeling their feelings, it's not.
They
It's
haven't
Kaman
surrendered.
Hashem. It's Kaman
What are
Hashem.
you surrendering?
Right, right. I mean, sometimes people surrender because they're hit with something so hard that just forces them to surrender.
Yeah, again, and just to make the distinction between surrender and giving up. Surrender is not giving up.
No,
We're
no,
not
no.
talking
It's
about
like
you.
Rav Wolbe talks about that para, Marcus Bechores hit the subconscious that cause them to surrender, let's say.
Yeah.
Over, I'm saying but you're saying sometimes it's hit so fast that there is such a thing as a shortcut sometimes when it's done like in a very.
So if you look at Tanya, it's Tanya's going to talk about Hesed Hadas. The real, when it comes to certain feelings, what I've seen inside is that it's going to come down to Hesed Hadas. And for me, it's just to conceptualize Hesed Hadas instead of just like, okay, pushing it away, and go where? Push it away and go where? So I need somewhere to go if I'm not going to be behooven to whatever I'm experiencing. For me, I found that in a place of surrender, whether it's in 12-step rooms, whether it's in just in cultivating a sense of amuna inside of myself, that like there's something more, and it's going to be there, and it's probably not going to be here, because if it was here, it would have been here already. If it would have been with these feelings, then it would have been with these feelings already. But so chances are it's somewhere else.
And this is the same thing with Purim, that they didn't know where the issue was coming from by Purim, and all of a sudden that's part of surrender and everything. The unknown.
Avad, if you want to get, I'll leave it to MS. We're all in Purim all the time anyway.
Uh-huh. Yashikar, thank you so much.
Okay, let's go. Let's hop around. I think the last live at least. Here we go. Hi, how are you?
Hi, so touching on the subject of just touching the feeling and saying hi and bye, how does that work? And is that not pushing it away?
Good question. Thank you. So the high and buy was really, I started working about the high and buy for the people that wound up really liking to spin in it. So I've been in this for about 18 years, and I remember once somebody was able to feel the feeling, they wanted to dive in, and they wanted to like almost like, I'm finally able to feel the sadness. I'm finally able to feel the anger. I'm finally able to like, and it's almost like they dive into it like a mikveh, and I get it, and it made sense. And there's this question, especially when it's painful feelings for people that don't normally, feel certain painful emotions, how do I not get stuck? All right, how do I stop the spin? So it's from that point, I started figuring out, well, what if I tell them just to say hi and bye? The same way I could say hi to it, I could say bye to it. It happens to be, I already know that any feeling fully felt is going to go to a place of resolve. But the reason why people are averse to pain, the reason why people run away from pain, is because there's a fear that the pain is not going to stop. The only thing that's more scary than pain is endless pain. The part of the unknown of pain is not knowing when the pain is going to end. Once I know when the pain ends, it winds up being just a little bit more painful. So, in a way to make it a little bit more metabolizable, if that's a word, or palatable, to actually take a feeling, say hi, say bye. You don't have to say hi and bye in 15 seconds. You could wait a minute. You could wait 2 minutes. You could give it 15 breaths and not 4. But to actually be able to say hi, and if you're able to say hi, you can most definitely say bye.
But that's only after he felt the emotion, after you
Let's
knew.
let's just assume that I'm talking about somebody who's actually saying hi. When he's saying hi, he's not just saying hi in his head. He's saying hi from the neck down.
That segues into the next question. How do you know that you're not so stuck in your emotions that you take every emotion and just sit with it and
So
process it through?
So it's very easy to turn this work into a bit of an avodah zarah, where it's like, okay, fine, now I have to sit down with my pen and paper and take it everywhere. I'm going to track every feeling that I'm going to feel throughout the day. And thank God, once a person is, married with kids and whatnot, they really force them into the present, by hook or by crook. So other people is really, really, really important and I did this work for being single for many, many years. And it's really important to stay grounded and normal and in relationship to reality. Because if not, you could keep on spinning inside of your own head. You could turn ChatGPT into your own personal therapist, and it winds up really not being the most healthy thing in the world. So to be able to learn the skill set, to do the exercise, and to be able to acknowledge what you acknowledge, and then go and live your life, because that's the point. That's really going to be the point. How do I wind up stretching and then living my life in a more healthy, integrated way?
And the last question is, what does Hineini offer to do that?
So the work that am I allowed now? So Hineini as a state, or Hineini as a program? Hineini.
Let's do it this way. Explain what a nanny is, and then we'll send out any information, or you'll put out your information.
Fantastic. So Hineini is the state of readiness. Hineini is the state of Hareini Muchan Muzuman, where it's like when Avram Avinu said Hineini by Akedat Yitzhak, he was saying that it's this lashon of readiness. When Hashem meets Moshe by the Sneh, and Moshe says, Moshe v'yom Hineini, there is this, it's the lashon, says Rashi, is lashon of readiness. So once I'm ready to encounter the unknown, once I'm ready to, in a sense, meet this process of surrender, if you will, I'm ready for what comes. I'm ready for what comes. Hineini as a discipline is going to be, how can I take the spin that I have, that we started tonight with, that ping pong game that I have inside of my head, and how do I learn how to stop the spin and show up? How do I really learn how to stop the spin and show up? And that takes courage. That takes acknowledging the vulnerability. That takes acceptance. That takes trust. It takes letting go. It definitely takes surrender in order to arrive in a state of Hineini. So if that encapsulates it.
And that's like a 4-day thing, that's it? And
No,
then you're on my own?
in the 4-day program, I take each one of these subjects, vulnerability, acceptance, trust, letting go, and surrender. We unpack it. We unpack it like a sugya. We do processes around each topic, and then we do a breath work on that topic. So by the time the 3.5, 4 days are done, that there's a certain command in the material, and then a certain command in the different state of, I'm not I've acknowledged a lot of the vulnerability I haven't been acknowledging. I've learned how to accept what I'm accepting, and I learned how to stand in a bit of a place of trust. Halavai, I learned how to let go maybe of some baggage that I've been carrying around, and how do I become really, really friendly with the idea of surrendering to something bigger than myself. So.
Okay, so we'll send out information later. But before we go to closing, I'm wondering for the women that are listening. So you can have the husband that opens up and shares, their feeling. Now, for those who are really deep and need serious help, I'm sure they have to go look, whether it's a therapist or somebody that can help them. But if the women very basic, how should the wife respond? What do the men want when they open up? And the wives are maybe not used to this, and it feels whatever comes up. What would be the right way for them to respond to their husband?
You're asking me?
Yep.
I'll most definitely ask my wife, but I think men want someone to come home to.
Because what we're looking for is you're saying, to be vulnerable in the relationship, to really say what's going on, how I'm feeling. And if it's something that I've never done, I'm going to start now, or how should they respond to it?
I think with this sense of hopefully with a sense of openness, with a sense of listening, without necessarily needing to change. Men are really looking for a home, for somewhere to land. The men that wind up showing up to the program, if you will, they wind up finding some place to land. So if part of the cultivation of the us is somewhere to land together, then with a lot of siyata d'shmaya and openness, the life can be that place where where he can land, and then he could also be where she can land. So very much that place of listening, support, openness, and but it's also creating that space. That doesn't mean, oh, I have a feeling, let me call her, and it's like 3 o'clock and the kids are coming home. It's really consciously creating that those spaces of connection.
And how do we know if it's too much and they need a third party?
They'll probably tell you. They'll probably tell you. And the nature of the beast is that use your judgment. I like adult education, and I'm not here to tell somebody what to do, but it can never hurt to ask. And therapy is a phenomenal, phenomenal tool with someone that knows what they're doing.
Beautiful.
Okay, I think we're gonna go to the closing segment now. Let's go to the closing segment. Okay, here we go. All the people that wanted to ask, sorry, we're not gonna get to it, but Menachem will have him back again. You can also email him. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. First of all, great to Moshe Chaim Srour for coming on tonight and giving us tremendous chizuk. This is a very sensitive but important topic for the men and for the women to support the men. We should get deeper into it. And again, if anybody's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9 p.m., the Zoom ID, we have different rabbanim, different topics. And Shem next week, February 22nd, we have another share. It's not confirmed yet. As soon as we confirm it, we will email it out and let everybody know. And looking forward, we're getting closer to Purim. A lot of things coming. We have a lot of big guests coming on, so it's getting exciting. Everything is recorded by menachemberfel.com. If anyone has any questions, please email coachmenachem@gmail.com. Tonight's share is 260. Everything is recorded on the phone lines at 732-305-9011. Moshe Chaim, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, your email, your website, your phone number, your text, your social security number, your address, share what you want to share with everybody, and then we'll continue to the closing.
So the website is projecthineini.com, and my number is 917-757-4993. So just don't call, text, and looking forward.
If you could type it in the chat, and while I continue, you don't mind if you could do that now. And okay, now as far as thank you to all the advertising sponsors, Lakewood Scoop here in Lakewood, Ellie and Ara for 5 Town Central, Chayla Camp from JCN for always providing us on all of the Jewish digital platforms. Really appreciate it. And let's go to the closing. I'll go first, followed by Menachem, and then we'll give Moshe Chaim, after he finishes typing his information in, a few minutes to think of a closing vart, a statement, something to leave the item with. But in short, it's a very important topic tonight. Feelings, men's emotions. It's a struggle for a lot of men, and I think there's a lot of benefits for it. I think also with all benefits, there also comes, things that are non-beneficial, we could think. It could make you feel less strong. It could make you feel less vulnerable. It could make you feel weaker. It could make you feel, all these different feelings.
And remember, it's only a feeling.
Right. Remember, it's only a feeling. And hold on 1 second. And it's only a feeling, and we have to try to realize that with every benefit, there's the things that come with it. But ultimately, when a person, especially a man, could tap into it, it makes you really a stronger person. It makes you calmer because you understand your feelings, you understand your emotions, and it opens up a whole new world. And it's not that the world's going to be easier, but it's going to be more understandable, and it gives you a lot more deep insight to connecting with your spouse, connecting with your kids, connecting with other people, and being there emotionally with people. I always tell Menachem there's friends that like we can go have a good time with. There's friends we could, go have a schmooze and go to Fabrengen, go to this. But then there's friends that you can connect on an emotional level. And the friends that you can connect on an emotional level, those are very powerful friends. Those are friends that really last a lifetime. Those are friends that you really, can get very far. So not everybody's zoichet to have such good friends like that. I am, Baruch Hashem, right, Coach Menachem? I'm zoichet to have friends that we can connect on a very deep emotional level, but it's something that you have to find. And if you could find it and you do find such people, it's amazing. And I'm going to turn over to Coach Menachem for closing. And I'm going to post Moshe Chaim's cell phone number, and he's going to text me at the website as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Moshe Chaim. And yes, for men, it's another step. Not everybody's there. Some people don't understand the language. Could be something new. And to find somebody that they can share, like we discussed in other programs. The women sometimes talk about situations that are on the phone, and it is.
Turn the camera.
But the men sometimes just have to know one to talk to, and sometimes they want to open up to somebody. It doesn't land well, and then they stop. They don't try again. That's part of being vulnerable. It's also important to be able to find somebody, find a space where you can share. Sometimes it could be a therapist if they understand it, but sometimes it could be a friend that understands. Usually it's also those people that went through their own thing, they need it for themselves, could understand when somebody shares, what they want, be able to hold a space for them. So that's important. But again, it's a new language. And I would say, for me, this is also new. I had to learn it on my own skin. And I remember when my therapist many years ago asked me, Menachem, what do you like? And I looked at him like, well, what are you trying? I don't understand what you're saying. What do you like? Like, what?
Challenge.
Like? What do I like? He's like, I don't know, go for a walk, maybe ice cream, I don't know, exercise or something. What do you like? And Baruch Hashem, I'm here now, now I could tell you, there are things that I like, but I'm coming from a place where I don't know what like means. I didn't even know who Menachem was. So slowly you start realizing, talking about the question of what does love mean? And like you said, the relationship with yourself. What's your relationship with yourself? When something happens, how do you relate to what happened? Do you run away, push it away, are you scared of it? Or could you see what happened, see that it doesn't feel good, and just be there? So it takes time. So this is it. I want to give my bracha to everybody. We're starting. We're having Kodesh Adar, and it's Hashem. Mishnechnes Adar Marbin B'Simcha. Also an emotion, something that you can bring into your life. Avodas Hashem, Simcha in yourself, and hopefully that could help feel other emotions, like the concept of feeling. Whether it's either you feel or you don't feel, because emotions are emotions. So if we're in touch, we're open, we feel. Or we could be shut down, then we don't feel even the simcha. So if you want to feel alive, yes, you might encounter emotions that you don't like, but that's part of being alive. Ups and downs, and you're like in and out. It's cloudy, it's sunny, but that doesn't mean we lose it. We see it, we feel it, and we can continue. So thank you very much, and Hashem should help. We should all be able to tap into it.
Okay, Moshe Chaim, before you're closing, somebody sent me this. I think I'm just gonna read it for the men. Like they could see that there's more to feelings. Just a cute thing, and then I'll give you another minute to think of a closing, but let me just share this. Menachem, you can see it? So basically it says, for all those men, when you feel sad, sadness might be telling you you need to cry. Loneliness, if you're lonely, it might be telling you you need connection. Shame might be telling me I need some self-compassion. Resentment, if you're angry, you're upset at somebody, might be telling me I need to be heard. Or maybe eventually I need to forgive somebody. If you're feeling empty, it might be telling me I need to do something creative. If you're feeling anger, it might be telling me I need to check in with my boundaries. Anxiety, if you're feeling anxiety, it might be telling me I need to breathe a little bit. Stress might be telling me I need to take things one step at a time. The point is, these are all feelings and emotions that we have, and if we could tap into them, we could see deeper where they're coming from. Versus, I'm sad because he did this to me, or I'm this because he did this. We get the emotions and we try to blame it on other things. But I thought that was a very good thing. Moshe Chaim, closing words.
So first off, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Coach Menachem, to Usher, to the whole space. It's a dream come true in so many ways. So really, really, I'm leaving very full. We say in learning Tachlis Yadid Shel Neda that there are certain things we're just never going to know, and so much of this process of healing for me is, and working with people, is that there are certain things that I'm not going to know, and sometimes what I notice is that I get in my own way, and I want certain things, and I need certain things, and I don't always know how to actualize it. And this process of vulnerability, acceptance, letting go, surrender is really a process for me of how do I get out of my own way, and how do I start to live a little bit more powerfully, a little bit more actualized, a little bit more real, a little bit more in my own body. And it's not a surprise that the two times, that I usually talk about it, where the Torah says Hineini, is where Hashem shows himself to Avram, and Hashem shows himself appears to Moshe, and both of them, Avram is being asked to sacrifice that which is most dear, and Moshe, he's being asked to do something he really doesn't want to do. Now, there are times in life where we're going to be asked to sacrifice that thing where we never even thought we would need to sacrifice, whether that sacrifice is our own ego, whether it's our own sense of certainty, whether it's fill in the blank. And we're going to be asked to bring that up. And is there a Hineini that's ready? And there are times that we're going to be asked to do things that we don't want to do. We're just not interested. We don't talk right. Let somebody else do it. My brother is even more qualified than I am. Why me? So, and even then, there is an internal call. There's an internal desire. There's a wanting for wholeness. There's Hashem's name that is looking to be expressed in this world through you. There's God's light that's trying to shine itself through you, and sometimes it's up to me how hard to make it. So how do I learn how to let go? How do I learn to allow, and how do I learn how to become a little bit more friendly with the process, a little bit more friendly with the feelings that come with the process, and yeah, and Mitzvah Hashem, it should be a Simcha Rosh Chodesh Adar, and we should just know how to increase that which is already there, to really Ma'aviv Simcha and increase that which is already there, which is already inherently ours.
Well, when
So
you feel the emotions, you can enjoy the simcha deeper.
definitely. No, and that's the truth. Once you know how to feel, you get to feel all of it.
Okay, thank you very much for coming on. Everybody should have a beautiful Rosh Chodesh this week. Menachem, I emailed you that flyer. People are asking about it. Make sure you send it out. Some good words over there. We'll see you all next week, same time, same place. And everybody, when you go to sleep tonight, just feel those emotions.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good night, everybody. Take care.